Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Superman Unlimited issue 8, written by Dan Slott and Jeremy Adams, with art by Lucas Mayer, colors by Marcelo Maiolo, and letters by Dave Sharp. Lois heads to space this issue, and the editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet and Clark head to the launch of the Stagg Starliner, a vessel for deep space exploration, but for only those who can afford it. Lois has volunteered to go on board its maiden voyage, something Clark does not believe is a good idea since he doesn't trust either Sebastian Stagg or the fact that the Starliner is using kryptonite as fuel. On top of that, Clark voices his displeasure at the man who is creating the rocket, but that's kind of left a mystery as to who exactly that is, at least for now. This feels like a classic Superman comic setup just in this first page. There's, the Daily Planet stuff happening, Lois is doing some crazy shit to get a story. Feels like a classic Superman adventure. And we also have Clark here, he's out in public. He's got to kind of play the hooky, dope guy, sort of just bumbling around because he's around people and he can't just be Superman. So it all feels just right. Along with Lois on the ship, a bunch of influencers, billionaires, and celebrities are also in attendance, something which Sebastian loves and proclaims they'll all be going into the future together on the first commercial flight. Sebastian also cannot help but reveal the ship's builder, revealing it to be none other than the Toyman, who we've seen a bit throughout Slott's run here, and it looks like he's turned over a new leaf, at least it looks that way. But then there's behind the scenes stuff where he's accepting payment from El Caldero in the form of kryptonite, and now he's working with Sebastian Stagg, who's a known villain, so it's all pretty shady stuff. As Clark tries to get a quote from Toyman, Sebastian tells some helmeted astronauts that the preparations have been made and they are to wait for his signal. Meanwhile, on a space station located out at the border of Sector 2814, a group of alien criminals has become well aware that the humans have achieved faster-than-light jump drives, and they find all of this rather concerning, as if the humans spread beyond their solar system, they could threaten their crime syndicates with their own, which is already in peril thanks to metahumans and the Green Lantern Corps running around trying to round them up throughout the sectors. So this type of alien plot kind of crops up every now and then. Aliens decide that humans are becoming a bit too advanced and don't really want humans to be out and about in, alien culture because they'll just kind of ruin it. And they're kind of right too. They're absolutely right. There would be some sect of humans who want to invade every planet because of their resources, or want to take over a planet just because it looks cool or something. There's hundreds of people that would do that sort of stuff. And I can understand where these aliens are coming from, and also they're criminals. They don't want someone sitting in their territory dealing drugs, doing exactly the same thing they're doing. They don't want the competition. Some of the aliens voice their concerns, thinking they're going to need a couple more ships in order to take down the Starliner, since it's probably going to have some backup. Back at the League Watchtower, Guy Gardner trims up his bowl cut, which I do like is coming back, because back in the Jeremy Adams Green Lantern book, he's just kind of rocking the, stock standard white guy main character in a video game haircut, like a very short cut hair. So I like that the bowl cut is coming back. It's cool, makes sense. It's also kind of like, I'm reviewing this issue a couple months after this issue actually came out, so it's a little bit of synergy with the Superman movie. You got to have the bowl cut because he had that in the film, but it's a good look for Guy. I like him with that. Guy is also talking with fellow Green Lantern Jessica Cruz and Martian Manhunter and Star Sapphire, who inform him about his assignment to protect the Starliner. Guy, of course, finds this a world beneath him, seeing as he's the greatest Green Lantern ever, so he thinks Carol should go and do it, but Jessica knows that she can't, since her company contracts for the League's shuttles, so her overseeing protection detail of a rival company could be seen as a conflict of interest, and the League don't need any bad press. Left with no other choice, Guy storms off to begin his protection mission of the Starliner. Clark meanwhile tells Lois again that he thinks something is off with this launch, worried that Lois is spreading herself too thin. She doesn't need to do this, but Lois gets why he's worried, but she wants to do this, telling him they'll set up a safe word that she'll say in case anything goes wrong on the ship, telling Clark that the safe word is xylophone, which might actually come back at the end of this issue. Clark trusts her, and soon she joins the crew on the launch, which is overseen by Toyman, who takes the ship into space with no trouble, and Guy meets up with it in orbit. Not really impressed with Stagg's giant rocket. I'm really liking Slot's take on Guy. Of course, it was, again, like I said before, some Superman movie synergy. He's here and teaming up with Superman, but I like that he's very cocky and sure of himself and not afraid to speak his mind. It feels like this version of Guy we haven't had in a long while, because he's not really like that in the Adams Green Lantern book. He's a little like that, but he's a much more level-headed guy in that, which I really like. I like his role in that book and what he's becoming in that book. But I do like this guy. This is like the classic guy, the guy who thinks he's, hot shit, can do no wrong, he's the best ever. Sebastian meanwhile winds the ship's jump drives up and blasts off across the solar system, and Guy manages to keep up with him pretty easily, and the influencers are happy to snap pics of him as he flies along the ship, something Guy is more than happy to pose for. But Sebastian is angered by it all, since he doesn't believe space travel is some joke or easy to do. It takes skill and bravery, not some glowing ring. Stagg quietly activates a beacon on the ship, which signals the nearby alien criminals to launch their attack. Like I said before, this feels like a classic setup. A spaceship in peril, Lois is on it, Superman has to come in and save the day, and Guy Gardner's here for a little bit of a team-up story. It's kind of like a big classic adventure. Clark, listening to the mission via the radio at the Coast City base, quickly changes and speeds off into space, hoping that he will be fast enough to reach the Starliner. Superman contacts Green Lantern, telling him that he's almost there, but Guy says he has it under control, creating his own ship to combat the attack shuttles. Guy, of course, is treating this like one big game, and in doing so, he misses one of the attack shuttles and it gets through his defenses and manages to blast the Starliner. Guy thinks that Superman distracted him with that one, but Clark tells him to focus on the ships and he'll get to the Starliner. Superman butting heads with Guy isn't something new. I think Guy's butted heads with literally fucking everyone in the DC universe at one point. But it adds some nice character drama, since both these heroes, they want the same thing. They're superheroes, they want to save the people, but they go about it in just completely opposite spectrums. Superman puts the people first, he wants to just save them and just get the job done, and Guy's all about showboating and showing off that, he can do this, he's the best ever at doing all of this. And I like that that's bringing in some tension between these two characters, and there's a reason why not many people like working with Guy Gardner, and Slott writes him so well here. Stagg meanwhile tells the crew to evacuate from the cargo hold, but they are attacked by the mysterious individuals in the spacesuits that Stagg led onto the ship before launch. We soon learn what these beings are, as one of them grabs one of the influencers named Ivan and are able to shapeshift into his form, telling Ivan that their name is now Ivan Now, so they plan on taking over his role on Earth, I guess. In the chaos, Lois tells Veronica, the influencer with the kryptonite lipstick from a few issues ago, for her classic green lipstick, putting some on so as when she is taken by the shapeshifters, Clark will know that she isn't the real Lois, as Lois would never wear green lipstick. Hey, so that's a really smart idea to set up, the way to tell that it's a shapeshifter and what isn't. It's the real Lois thing to do, come up with a little plan that's gonna trap someone a little later on. Outside, Superman and Green Lantern finish up with the alien ships as they see one of the escape pods from the Starliner deploy. Superman races to catch it, relieved to find Lois is safe inside with the others. Lantern rounds up the alien criminals, but one of the aliens, a being made from fire energy, fires a blast of fireballs at the now abandoned Starliner, figuring that it will explode, and thanks to its kryptonite fuel tanks, it will kill Superman in the explosion. Something which might have been the plan all along, to kill Superman with the kryptonite. Luckily, Toyman has actually thought about this, and maybe is actually a good guy, as he reveals that the kryptonite batteries are all sealed up with inertron, so they won't blow up no matter how hard the aliens try and hit them. I'm still suspicious of Toyman. He's done a couple of things here and there where it's helped Superman out, but I think he's playing the long game. I think he's trying to lure Superman into a false sense of security, and then when Superman finally trusts him, he's going to strike, and it's going to be really satisfying because Slott has set this up across multiple issues, that Toyman is there in the background working on stuff and working on things for El Caldero and with them, so I'm intrigued to see what that exactly is once that becomes the main plot of the book. Sometime later, the surviving astronauts are taken back to Earth, where Stagg says that this is all just a minor setback, and next time they go into space, they'll have an actual fleet ready to go. Superman meets with Lois and immediately can tell something is up thanks to the lips being green, but to confirm his suspicion, he asks Lois the safe word, which is xylophone. However, Lois does not remember that. Superman quickly ties the false Lois and everyone else up, revealing to everyone that they aren't actually the billionaires or influencers, they are actually Durlans. Guy arrives, revealing that he found the real crew, all holed up in cryotubes and stored on a nearby asteroid. Slott working the Durlans in is kind of a neat bit of continuity, and them trying to undermine government, or trying to sneak their people in. It's very Skrull-like sort of stuff, and they really are. They're just the Skrulls. They're just purple. But Jeremy Adams did this in his Green Lantern book, where they tried to take over the United Planets, and now I guess they're trying to do stuff with criminal underworld people and trying to get in on Earth's culture and trying to undermine them in some way. Maybe it has to do with the faster than light travel. They're trying to make it so that they don't eventually create that sort of stuff, maybe. I'm intrigued to see if this is going to be something that's followed up with, because as I said, Adams did a great job of building out the Durlans as they like to hide out in other cultures and then spring the trap. So maybe there's more hidden around the world somewhere. Who knows? Eventually, the crew and Lois all wake up as Sebastian Stagg is arrested, ranting how none of this is his fault and this is all AI fake news. Guy is happy to be off his babysitting duty and heads off as the real Lois reunites with Clark, thinking that she might have been spreading herself a little too thin, and maybe she does need a break. Superman Unlimited issue 8 felt like a very classic Superman story. You had space-faring action, a team-up with another hero, Lois is in peril, a couple of really cool, yet a little bit simple twists to the story, but it was all fun, and it's a really self-contained issue, which I really like. Dan Slott has done a good job of balancing out, making each of these issues feel like their own little story. You're getting one big story in a package, as well as little connections to the larger story he's developing with this Kryptonite Island and El Caldero, which didn't really play into this story all that much, which I really appreciated. It was kind of like a one and done, and that's really been a thing I've liked about this series and continue to like about this series, so I can't wait to see the next issue, which is a 2-part prankster arc, which I'm looking forward to. I'm going to give this issue an 8 out of 10.